Um, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's trade review session and hopefully a live trading session as well. As always, if you have questions, please do post those on your screens, and I will endeavour to answer those during the course of this particular session, or I will answer them after the close of today's session and possibly over the course of the weekend. Sorry, I'm just watching the currencies move as I'm talking, and they're both having a bit of a downward tick at the moment. So I'm just in the process of tidying up my position over the last few minutes, and I'm just going to do that again very quickly with one of the currencies. I think what I'll do is I'll probably leave exposure on in one of them, and I'll just sort of I'll probably close the sterling one just there, just to tidy up the position, so it's a little bit sometimes when you're doing these live sessions and the markets are pinging around, you do tend to miss things, and I don't want to do that during this session. Obviously, I am short the Dow now. We've had a fairly substantial rally off of the lows today. I just look at the trades that I was doing first thing this morning, and I bought the Dow at 30,605, so fairly close to a 400-point movement off of those lows. What you do tend to find when you see these movements in the Dow, certainly during the European time zone, sometimes we overshoot the opening that we're going to see in the Dow. That may or may not be the case today. It's very difficult to get a feel for it, but obviously the Dow and the US markets are very strong in the last hour or so, and pretty much since the retail sales numbers came out, and the Treasury yields have started to react to those as well, and there seems to be a little bit more positivity as regards the US indices, but we have been on track up until the last hour or so for pretty much a losing streak every day this week. I think the Nasdaq is probably the one market that has excused that somewhat. So as you know, I've still been reasonably active in the euro, trading the euro and sterling again this week. The euro obviously trading at a 20 plus year low, and during the course of the week we did trade below parity, and there were opportunities to buy just below parity and take advantage of a bounce to the upside. So those are the things that I've been focusing on. Obviously could be wrong here with the Dow as we continue. We have been a little bit higher in pre-market trade. I just think that there is a propensity to overshoot, so fairly close to the opening bell. I think I will sell the Dow again, and hopefully look for a bit of a dip and some sellers coming into this market. We continue to see severe inflationary pressures in the US, and the potential for the Fed to continue, and we're still seeing the Dow pop up here a little bit to 31,000 and or approaching 31,050. So I think for the benefit of a live session today and a trade around that, I'm going to sell here at 31,040 or fairly close to it, and the rationale being is partly that I think we may have overshot the opening in the US, so I'm just going to sell there. I think I sold there at 31,049, so we'll monitor that throughout the and we're still popping higher. So there obviously is a lot of buying or a lot of bids coming into the market or to the equity market There could also be a certain amount of spoofing. There could be some sell orders that come in to match off some of those orders as we approach the opening bell, and hopefully I'll be able to take advantage of that if that is the case. Obviously, I was short the currencies prior to the opening bell, but bar €1 trade now, I have closed those. And really my position is just the Dow now, averaged over 3 trades or so, but we are still seeing this pick up to the upside, so I'm going to have to look at maybe stopping these trades out if we continue to see strength as this market opens. Could well be that we see a few stops trigger at the open and there is a little bit of a lift. I don't have formal stops in on those trades at the moment, so I will have to trade them myself and stop them out, but I'll monitor that as we continue to go through to the opening bell here. So we have just under 3 minutes or so to go to the open. And like I say, it will be interesting to see whether there is continued follow through from this activity that we've seen in the last hour or so. The retail sales numbers weren't particularly bad, they weren't particularly good. Inflation concerns are still there. I think the earnings coming through from the big organisations that we're going to see over the next week or 7 to 10 days are probably going to give us a better indication of where organisations are, whether they're going to be looking to lay people off, moving in over the next few months, or whether, and I think that will be a firmer indication of whether or not we are approaching a recession. And certainly for me, the jury is out currently on whether that is a definite outcome of what we're seeing at the moment. Growth numbers in China, or GDP growth in China, was particularly poor overnight, but the US economy remains robust. We are seeing growth and earnings, I think, over the next couple of weeks are going to be exceptionally important. So we're still seeing strength here, trading at the high for the day in the Dow. So the trade that I did a few minutes ago is about 35 pips against me at the moment. I think 31,000 and holding on to these levels is going to be a bit of a battle today because of the negativity that is out there in the market. I think the expectations of a 100 basis point increase later this month have gone down a little bit today, and that may be why we're seeing some of the upside that we're currently seeing. We're only about 30 seconds or so out from the opening bell now, so still a bit of an uptick here, unfortunately. Just going to close the euro trade so I can focus on the Dow as we go here, and we're still moving higher, a few seconds or so to go through to the opening bell. Surprising amount of strength coming through, to be honest, certainly not something that I expected, and we're open there now, I think, or fairly close to opening. And there we go. Just going to add to my position there, just slightly above 31,100 or so. See if I can just job in and out of that really, really quickly. Just close that there briefly as we're starting to pick back up there on the upside. So I need to think about stop for my earlier trade. We're back up above 31,120 at the moment. I do think it's going to be difficult to hold on to these gains for the remainder the afternoon. So I'm not looking to add to my positions at this particular stage. There was that quick trade there that I just did, and hoping that we see a bit of a movement to the downside from here, a bit of profit taking for people who've come into the market today. So if we see 120 again, I'll look to sell that level. So just got short there at 31,120, and again, unfortunately we've seen a bit of a lift to the upside, so just going to have to weather that through for a bit. Still a lot of opening orders going through in this market. So we drop back down there to, so just as we get to 31,100, I'll look to close that trade. So we're just about there now. It was a particularly poor fill on the close, unfortunately. But I'll continue to monitor that as we go through and look at this week's trades and some of the things that happened. And like I said, if you do have questions, please post those up on your screen, and I'll do my best to get around to those in the next 10 minutes or so, if that's possible. So we've just dipped below 31,100 again there. I was a little bit too exposed on the Dow to hold that trade too long. The closing fill was particularly poor. I think it came in about 12 pips higher than I thought it was. But that's partly because of the internet connection, but also because the market is moving so fast at the moment. So we are experiencing very, very fast markets, and there is a need to be very, very careful with what you're doing at this time. So the first trade that I did when we started this session was 31,049. We're getting back close to that level at the moment, so we've had a couple of trades there that have returned reasonable profits, not huge profits, but reasonable profits. So if we go back down towards 31,059, rather than necessarily looking, and my phone unfortunately is not even updating at the moment, but rather than necessarily looking for a profit on that trade, I might just reduce the trade and we are got a very small profit in there now, and it's flip-flopping between profit and loss fairly aggressively around here. So I sold at 31,049, so I'd be prepared to take a small loss on the trade just to reduce the exposure at this time, and on the back of the fact that the last two trades have returned profits, I have no real concern doing that. It'll just be a little bit more effective from a risk management perspective. So it's fairly close to break even there. I've just closed that down. So that trade was pretty much break even. The two other trades that we posted during that session have returned small profits. So we'll just come away from there now and look at the, sorry, let me just leave that in the background so that I can access it if I need to. And we'll just look at the trades for this week. So it's been there's been far too many trades. That's very evident on your screens. There's a reasonable profit for the week. Monday was difficult, to say the least. A lot of currency trades, a lot of big moves in the currency that were really whipping my position around, and took, because the currency trades are a little bit bigger, took some fairly big losses on the Monday before recovering nicely Tuesday and Wednesday. Yesterday again was a negative day, and then today has been reasonably good so far as well. But the things to really note from my perspective, and I'm just going to open up the screens again so that we can see those, and you can see the Dow lifting a little bit again at this particular point. The big thing for me was the number of trades, far too many trades. So wanted to pull back on that and wanted to pull back on that yesterday, but really got pulled back into this move below parity that's going on with the euro, and some fairly volatile action in the indices as well. So it was far more active both yesterday and today than I would have liked to have been. And I think that from me, certainly there has to be a strong focus on that from now going into next week, and trying to reduce the number of trades that I'm taking on a daily basis and bring that back down to that sort of 10-12 level, which I know is the best level for me. I think the markets, just in general, just for those of you who like a bit of an update in terms of what I think with the markets, the euro obviously is 60 pips above parity at the time now, and has had a couple of attempts at parity during the course of the week, and did dip under for a considerable period of time. We're seeing more weakness coming through in sterling. Obviously, they've got a leadership battle going on. And if anybody can tell me who's in the running, who's out of the running, you're a better man than I. But I think sterling will continue to come under a little bit of pressure. I am a buyer when it gets down close to that 118 level. Again, with the euro, I think every time it dips below parity, there is, or there will be, an attempt to push it back above parity, whether that comes from the banks or from the central banks themselves. The Fed is way more aggressive than the ECB, and that's part of the play that's pushing us to that parity level. But I think at parity there is, there are other forces that swing into action at those particular levels, and I think we'll continue to see that. Gold is another one, trading around the 1704 level. We did dip below 1700 during the course of the week. I am always naturally a seller of gold, but I think at these levels, I'm trying to enter the trade from the buy side and look for a bit of a lift. It's very, very difficult. It gets very nervous around that 1700 level, and we're not a million miles from it again now. So look, the markets are still pretty volatile after that opening bell. The currencies moved down nicely for me as we were talking. The trades that we did, 3 in total, 1 broke even, the other 2 returned a profit. The one that broke even would be nicely in credit now, but my focus is keeping the trades under control. Got a little bit exposed prior to the opening bell, but I've managed to unwind that back and reduce that quite significantly since that stage. So still short the Dow, don't expect to do any more trades this afternoon, just monitoring the trades that I do have on, hopefully that they move lower, but to this point it's been a nicely successful day, and the Dow has just traded there very briefly below 31,000, but still up 400 points from the lows that we saw first thing this morning. So please have a good weekend. I am travelling a bit next week, but I'll update you with that over the course of the weekend. Trading will be as per normal, bar maybe Tuesday morning when I will be on a plane, but I will update you on that over the course of the week.